My name is Jonathan Reed. I'm 56 years old, and I've spent most of my life doing my best to be a decent man, calm, steady, patient, quiet. The kind of man who fixes lawnmowers for neighbors without charging a dime, who shows up early to church every Sunday to set out chairs, who waves at every stranger on the block whether they wave back or not. I've never been the kind of guy to start trouble. And I sure as hell never thought I'd see the day when my own stepdaughter, Kayla, would look me in the eye and turn me into the villain of a story she wasn't strong enough to tell honestly. I married her mother, Rebecca, when Kayla was 12, angry, withdrawn. Smart as a whip but full of resentment she didn't know how to express. Her father had walked out when she was 10, promising to visit next month, a month that never came. I stepped in gently, cautiously, never trying to replace him, only trying to give her the stability she'd lost. But no matter how many school events I attended, how many science fairs I supported, how many nights I stayed up helping her with homework, she kept me at arm's length, and I accepted that, believing time would do what love alone couldn't. But time, as I learned years later, doesn't always fix things. It sometimes deepens the cracks instead. Everything started falling apart when Kayla turned 21 and moved back home after dropping out of college. She was frustrated with life, angry at the world, and too proud to admit she felt lost. She lashed out at Rebecca, ignored me completely, and spent nights out with friends who whispered poison into her ears about how I was controlling, old-fashioned, too strict. The truth was, I had asked her to get a part-time job, contribute a little, respect the rules of the house, nothing unreasonable. But to her, it was an attack, an insult, a reminder that she wasn't living the life she imagined. And when pride and insecurity mix, the result is blame. She aimed straight at me. It started small, eye rolls, snide comments, slamming doors. Then one night, after Rebecca and I asked her to stop sneaking people into the house past midnight, she exploded. She yelled that I was ruining her life, that I treated her like a prisoner, that I was creepy and controlling. I brushed it off as a tantrum. But I didn't know that she wasn't just yelling in the house, she was yelling online too. Within days, whispers started spreading through our small community. Someone at the grocery store avoided my eyes. The mailman who used to chat with me barely muttered a hello. A woman at church abruptly moved her children to the other side of the pew when I sat down. I didn't understand why until a friend finally pulled me aside and said, "Jonathan, there are rumors going around about you?" My stomach dropped. I asked what kind. He hesitated, then said the sentence that made my legs go weak. "People are saying you made your stepdaughter uncomfortable, that you crossed boundaries." My heart slammed against my ribs. I felt sick. Kayla, my wife's daughter, the girl I had raised, protected, and supported, had told her friends that I was inappropriate around her. They posted her words online. People shared it without question. Screenshots flew across neighborhood group chats. And because I was a quiet man, a private man, a man who didn't defend himself on social media, my silence became proof. I felt like I was drowning in a lie I couldn't escape. Rebecca confronted Kayla immediately, demanding the truth. But Kayla doubled down, crying, shaking, saying she felt uncomfortable living with a man who watched her too closely, twisting innocent moments into sinister shapes. And the community believed her. They always believed the younger one. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself to Kayla. Instead, I packed a small bag and left for a motel that night. Not because I was guilty, but because I refused to stay in a home where my very presence could become fuel for a rumor that could destroy my entire life. Rebecca sobbed, begged me to stay, but I told her gently, if she feels unsafe or says she does, I won't be here to give her more ammunition. At the motel, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong, wondering how decades of kindness could be shattered by a single angry lie. But the truth, as life often shows, has a way of clawing its way into the light whether people want it to or not. 3 days after I moved out, the rumor spread even further, this time reaching people who actually knew me. A few church members stepped forward, people whose kids I'd coached in community baseball years ago. They defended me online, saying the accusations didn't match my character. Kayla's friends responded aggressively, saying victims don't lie and older men gaslight people into trusting them. I watched it unfold from a motel room, helpless and shaking. But then something happened, something I didn't expect. The community turned. Not against me, but against her. Because Kayla made a mistake. She kept talking. She exaggerated. She contradicted herself. She made claims that didn't line up with reality, claims people easily disproved. She said I was always home watching her. But neighbors pointed out I worked 10-hour shifts and wasn't home during most of the day. She said I invaded her privacy, but her own friend posted a picture of her messy room with 30 empty cups, saying, "Girl, no one wants to go in there." Slowly, people began realizing the truth. She was angry, insecure, ashamed of her own failures, and looking for someone to blame. The turning point happened at a community board meeting, where one of the women who had shared Kayla's claims publicly stood up and asked, "Do you have any actual proof?" Kayla crumbled under the pressure. She stumbled over her words, contradicted herself again. And then her worst mistake, she tried to attack the character of a man who had a spotless reputation in the community. People began murmuring, shaking their heads. One older woman stood up and said, "I've known Jonathan for 20 years. You're not describing the man we know, you're describing your anger." And just like that, the tide shifted. People stopped looking at me as a monster and started looking at her as a manipulator. Within days, the rumor that once stained my name began spreading back toward its source, this time as truth. Kayla had made it all up. When I returned home the next week. It wasn't as a man crawling back, it was as a man who knew his worth. I walked in slowly, expecting tension, silence, avoidance. But what I found was Kayla sitting on the couch, shaking, eyes swollen from crying, staring at the floor like a child caught stealing from her own mother. Rebecca stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, face cold with disappointment. Kayla finally whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shame her. I simply said, Kayla, lies travel faster than truth, but truth always catches up." She broke down, sobbing, apologizing, admitting everything: her anger, her insecurity, her resentment toward the expectations she felt she couldn't meet. She confessed the truth to the community in a public post, though the damage took longer to repair. But I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because forgiveness frees the person who gives it. And in that moment, something shifted between us. Not friendship, not trust. Trust takes time. But understanding. Today, the same community that once whispered behind my back now greets me with respect. People apologized. Some privately, some publicly. And ironically, the scandal that was meant to destroy me ended up strengthening my reputation, because the truth didn't just clear my name. It exposed the real problem. A broken young woman who needed help, not an enemy. As for me, I still fix lawnmowers for neighbors, still show up early to church, still wave at strangers. But now, people wave back a little faster. And Kayla? She's in therapy, healing, slowly learning that lies grow like weeds, but so does regret. And in the end, she learned a lesson she never forget. You can try to ruin a good man, but eventually the truth ruins the liar instead.